Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our board meeting. Thank you for being here with us. We will begin with roll call. Here.
Here. Here.
Okay, and we will now do the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll please join me, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have the approval of the agenda for the evening. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. And the approval of the minutes from the January 12th board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Been motioned and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Dr. Sprout, your superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Berrigan and governing board members. Governor Hobbs recently proclaimed January as School Board Recognition Month. Now, here's your little civics lesson. The Arizona Constitution places the responsibility of maintaining, developing, and operating local public schools to community-elected governing boards. The governing board establishes policy, oversees the executive functions, and appraises the educational program and the district operations. Our 5 governing board members are the best of the best, and we cannot be as successful and continuously improving without a governing board always meeting its duty and obligations with excellence. And we have seen that for many, many years. So thank you, President Berrigan, Clerk Michelle Anderson, members Linda Abeg, Dr. Ryan Centers, and Dr. Torrance Watkins for your service to this community. Our students, staff, and families, and Levine as a whole have been richly blessed by your leadership. Thank you very much. We have a little gift for the board, some nice pictures of them interacting with students at board meetings, and just another sign of your presence in our classrooms and our instructional program. So thank you. There we go. Our Levine School District Spelling Bee champion, Estrella Foothills Global Academy 4th grader Ulrich James, and our runner-up from Levine Elementary School, 6th grader Shadia Mbaju, competed in Maricopa County Region 3 Spelling Bee on February 2nd. Shadia placed 4th in the region, and Ulrich is the Maricopa County Region 3 champion. Let's give him a round of applause. That means that Ulrich will be moving on to the Arizona State Spelling Bee on March 18th. Congratulations to both students. I saw Ulrich here and Shadia did not make it here tonight. So Ulrich, would you please come forward? Told me that he has a few words for you all, and so Ulrich, we can step right on up here and this microphone. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. I am Aldrich James I'm a 4th grade student from EFGA. And I am thankful for my teachers to give this opportunity to participate in this spelling bee. And I also thank board members, spelling bee coordinators, and teachers, the superintendent, and my parents too. And I am honored to represent Laveen community on the state spelling bee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ulrich. Family, congratulations to you as well. Mission Kindergarten was held at every school on January 31st and was a huge success. This year, 330 families attended the event, which is an increase of 140 families over last year. And this, of course, kicks off our registration for next year. And so we are already looking to 23-24. And a lot of parents and kindergartners, future kindergartners, were very excited to get to visit their school. Saturday's 22nd annual Laveen Community Parade was a huge success with 87 high-quality entries and Mayor Gallego as our Grand Marshal. It was a wonderful gathering of our community and a reminder of what makes Laveen a special place to live, work, and attend school. 3 of our schools, Vista del Sur, Desert Meadows, and Trailside Point, won first through third places, respectively, in the school group category, and all of our schools and departments represented the district very well. The Laveen School District attended and presented at the School Connect Summit on January 31st. So the Connect in School Connect is the forming of partnerships, the connections between schools and community, businesses, and faith-based organizations, something in which the Laveen School District leads the pack in. Community Engagement Coordinator Dr. Joe Roselle, Rogers Ranch Principal Megan Hamburg, Rogers Ranch students Justin Chavez, Brooklyn Kelly, Anya Insugan, and Mohamed Musama, and I presented our district's vision for building partnerships that benefit our students, families, staff, and community as a whole to 760 people. Our students didn't quite know that it was going to be as big as it was, but you can imagine, you can see all those tables there were filled with people. They did an outstanding job. This is at the arena at Grand Canyon University. We started with me speaking, and then Dr. Roselle, and then Ms. Hamburg, but our students really were awesome and were the best part of our presentation. And we're going to recognize them in just a minute. And what they were there to talk about was a wonderful opportunity that occurred at Rogers Ranch. Through these partnerships that we formed, we were able to secure donations to provide 12 Rogers Ranch students an opportunity to visit Biosphere 2 for the Southwest Space Settlement Design Competition. Rogers Ranch was the only middle school competing at the event against high school students from Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, and California, and they did really well. Students worked in teams to complete an aerospace engineering project, designing a vehicle to enable long-term surface exploration of Mars for the purpose of identifying candidate sites for a future settlement on the Martian surface. They had NASA scientists there to assist students with any questions or clarification, but teachers were not allowed to assist these students. A big thank you to Principal Megan Hamburg and Rogers Ranch teachers, Mr. Gonzalez and Ms. Pineda, for chaperoning the group. This was an incredible event. Our students had a lifetime experience there, and we'd like to recognize 3 of our students that spoke at the School Connect Summit and also attended the Biosphere event. So if we could please have Justin Chavez come forward. Brooklyn Kelly, if you'd please come forward. And Anya and Sugan, if you would please come forward, and Principal Megan Hamburg. Principal Hamburg, if you would also come up, we will get a picture. I was laughing after this presentation. I think Brooklyn was saying, I think the one lesson you learn when you're asked to give a presentation is how many people will be there. And to have one of your first public speaking experiences to be in front of 760 people is pretty incredible. Parents' Day at the Capitol is scheduled for February 15th at 11:30 a.m. Since the aggregate expenditure limit was just passed, hooray. Thank you, legislature, for doing your job. We will be extending a thank you to legislatures for passing the AEL and reminding them that we still need a permanent solution to this issue. We will also be able to dialogue with legislators on bills that will affect education and advocate for public education and the Levine School District. Levine was recognized with 3 Aspirations Awards by the Arizona School Public Relations Association last week. We were honored with an Award of Excellence for a multimedia marketing campaign, our Mission Kindergarten, and 2 awards for excellence in photography. Thank you to our communications coordinator, Ms. Kristen Landry, right there. So congratulations. Nearly all of our 41 kindergarten teachers have completed 6 hours of training for the new statewide kindergarten early assessment. Starting in the 23-24 school year, this observation-based assessment will be administered within the first 45 calendar days of school in compliance with Senate Bill 1572. But this assessment will help us to focus on a student's strengths and abilities within 6 essential domains of school readiness. Our school district is one of the few districts around the state who have already completed this training requirement for their kindergarten teachers. This will be very important to us next year, and thank you to our team that has set this up and all of our kindergarten teachers. 3 Levine teachers have been recognized by Discovery Education as top teacher users of the Publishers Daily Learning Platform. That is our science curriculum, Discovery Education. Kristen Allen of Vista Del Sur and Cynthia Williams and Stacy Johnson of EFGA were presented with an award and acknowledged for their use of the Discovery Ed resources. Paseo Point celebrated the Lunar New Year with a parade, costumes, and performance of Happy New Year in Mandarin. They also learned more about musical instruments that originated in Asian countries. Thank you to 3rd grade teacher, Ms. Chang, for organizing the event, which was featured on ABC 15, and a link can be found on our Facebook page. Levine School District will be hosting a teacher job fair on February 23rd. That's our 2nd job fair here at the LEC from 4:30 to 6:30. And now we will move on to our Employees of the Month. Our certified Employee of the Month is Special Education Preschool Teacher Jonathan Klaus. Mr. Klaus has served as a teacher in our developmental preschool at Levine Elementary since 2007. He is known for having a classroom that makes content accessible to all of his students so that they all achieve success, and I can speak personally to seeing that happen. Mr. Jonathan, as he is known to his students, is also incredibly intentional, caring, and embeds content into every aspect of the day. One example of this is during snack time, a student placemat helper hands out a placemat that aligns with the shape and color of the month. This placemat also contains a sentence stem with visuals that the students can use when requesting a snack. You will assuredly find greatness in Mr. Jonathan and his amazing team. In fact, someone that worked with him just got Employee of the Month with someone on his team a few months ago. Thank you, Mr. Jonathan, for always going above and beyond for our preschoolers. Mr. Klaus, would you please come forward?
Thinking about what to say about Mr. Johnson because he has been, to me, in my last 7 years, of being such an asset in so many ways. And he is, of course, an amazing preschool teacher. He came to Levine in 2007 and helped start our developmental preschool program. And he is, and forever will be, part of the fabric that is our developmental preschool program, but also Levine Elementary School. Thank you for that. But as a person, he isn't a genuinely amazing person. And he shows that to me and demonstrates that over and over again. An example would be, we have an emphasis on reading at Levine, and I'll often say things during announcements or send things out. And the same day, I'll get emails from him, or I'll get suggestions and resources. He cares about our kids. He cares about our school. He cares about me. And for that, I'm thankful and always will be thankful to have been able to work with you.
Jonathan, I can't top that. I'm not going to try to. I'm not going to try to. But I am going to say, we met in what was my very first act as a director in Levine 16 years ago when I interviewed you. And little did I realize that we would be here still celebrating your success. I knew what a great opportunity it was for us to grab you, and I'm so glad that we did. Thank you for everything on behalf of Student Service. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I asked Dr. Kaplinger, hey, is it okay if I talk? And he said, you're Employee of the Month. You can do whatever you want. So I have been here 16 years, and it's my 30th year teaching, so I'm going to take just a few minutes of your time, if you don't mind. I received this award, and I've lived here in Levine the whole time that I've worked here. And I received this award one of my first years here in Levine, and I got it at the Desert Meadows cafeteria at a board meeting before we had this beautiful building. And it's been amazing to see this district grow as it has. And it's so nice to kind of have my career kind of in Levine kind of bookended with this award. And I'm so thankful to my family who are here tonight for always listening to me talking about school and all the hours I've spent at school and all the hours I've spent working on school at home. And all the time we've spent out in our community with our preschoolers. And I'm thankful to my preschool team that's here tonight, and whether you're at another school, whether you're next door to me, or whether you're in my classroom, I appreciate all of you and your award winners in my heart. I'd like to thank all of the parents we have a very unique thing here in preschool, in developmental preschool, where we have parents that are bringing their child to us and saying, can you help my child? They don't have to be at school. They're saying, can you do something for my child? I know there's something not quite right. Can you help my child? And can you take them into your classroom? And can you start them on their journey? And that's what we do every day. And I'm so lucky to have somehow had the skill set to do this for all these years. And I know I'm lucky that this doesn't ever seem like a job. It seems like something I'm supposed to do. There's so many people when you think about something like this, I think about who has brought me to this point. And I think that there's all these people that are in our lives that we don't thank enough. And it's so nice to get this kind of award, but there's so many people that I wish would win awards. But if you wouldn't mind just taking just a few seconds to think about somebody that has gotten you from there to here, from here to there, from there to here. Somebody that's made an impact in your life, in your heart. If you could just take a few seconds to think of that person and thank them. Thank you for that. Thank you for that time. And it's my honor to be here. And as my buddy Bono would say, it's a beautiful day.
If you want to know anything about U2, Jonathan is your person. And if you're going, who is U2, you can also talk to Jonathan. All right. Thank you, Mr. Klaus. We appreciate you. And that is a very special section of our district, is our developmental preschool. Our classified employee of the month is Jada Beck. Jada has served as a special education instructional associate at Desert Meadows for over 3 years. She comes to class with a smile on her face, serving as a role model to her students, but always displaying a tremendous amount of care and love for her students. Jada is always willing to help when necessary to not only the students in her classroom, but all of the students at school. Even though she's a special education instructional associate, she also has served as a cheerleading coach to middle school students. Jada is most certainly an example of finding greatness on the Desert Meadows campus with the different ways she assists and serves the staff and students. Jada, we appreciate everything you do for our students and staff. And Jada Beck, would you please come forward?
Congratulations, Jada. A few years ago, 4 years ago, she joined us right out of high school, very shy, I wouldn't say anything. 4 years later, she's just done such a great job. An example of finding greatness, but also growing greatness at Desert Meadows. I'm just so proud of you and all that you do for our kids. Thank you so much.
We will now move on to our classroom spotlight presented by Cheatham Elementary, and Principal Christy Pashley will get us started.
Thank you. President Berrigan, Dr. Sprout, members of the board, it's an honor to be here tonight and spotlight Cheatham School, most specifically our middle school students and staff. And we are going to be talking a bit about writing integration. And so you might think, well, English language arts teachers. You know, those are the teachers that teach writing. Well, actually, we have their teammates here, science, social studies, and math. And they're going to talk to you about the process, our PLC process, and how it's impacted their writing instruction to support the ELA department, but just to support our students. Writing is a lifelong skill that our students need. It leads to success, real world application. And then most importantly, we have our students here today to talk to you about how it's impacted their classroom with some examples and some explanations about what they're doing in those classes. And before I turn it over to Ms. Downs, I just also want to thank the ELA teachers because they're actually here supporting their teammates, and that was a nice surprise. So I'm going to turn it over to Brittany Downs, our instructional coach, so she can talk to you about how the process started.
Thank you. Hi. So at Cheatham, we've been working school-wide on ways to increase our rigor in our instruction. And one way we do that is by integrating the writing in all subjects, not just ELA. So we have built this into our instructional planning meetings and our professional development. And you can see some pictures up there of the junior high team working together, looking at student work. So at the beginning of the year, what happened is departmentalized teachers worked together to determine how they could support the reading teacher, the ELA teacher, in skills in their classes. And then what they did is they brought in student work samples of writing from each of their classes. They analyzed what the students were producing, and then they were able to determine the next steps based on the needs that they were seeing. It's been really exciting to see how this process has changed what the teachers are expecting the students to produce in order to support their critical thinking. And so at this time, you're going to hear from our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers in math, science, and social studies, give you examples to what this actually looks like in their classrooms.
Good evening, I'm Stephen Gabaldon. I'm the 8th grade science teacher at Cheatham. And for years, I've been trying to get writing integrated into science in so many different ways. One thing I've honed this year is working on something we call the CER process, which is using claims, evidence, and reasoning in order to build strong argumentative responses, which transfers from class to class. Later on, my students will be showing you examples of this, and I think you'll see that it shows that they're being more concise with their words and knowing how to find support in order to get their message across. Oh, there.
Good evening. My name is Cecily Venegas. I'm the 7th grade math teacher. As a result of our grade level instructional planning meetings and to support our students' ELA skills, I had to find a way to get my students writing in my math block. At first, I thought it was difficult and a little foreign to incorporate writing into math, and I know my students felt a little bit the same. They often tell me, I know how to do it, I just don't know how to write about it, or I don't know how to explain it. So we took what we've been doing into PLC, and slowly changing it. So at Cheatham, we use the chapter Essential Questions to guide our daily lessons. These questions help connect the math concept they are learning to real-life situations. Each lesson in our curriculum has students write about how the math they learned that day supports the overall purpose of that chapter. Students are encouraged to answer the essential question using math vocabulary words to show me they fully understand the lesson. This forces the students to justify their thinking and deepen their understanding. It also gives me the opportunity to determine if my students actually understand the math. My students will be sharing their responses to the essential question in their math workbooks with you guys.
Good evening. My name is Mr. Clausen, and I am the 6th grade social studies teacher at Cheatham. This year, my classes have been focusing on their writing skills. My students have been reading and analyzing grade level text through our curriculum, having discussions about our topics, and practicing their informational writing in the form of essays. During instructional planning meetings and professional developments, I've had the opportunity to collaborate and gather feedback from my grade level team, instructional coaches, and administration to increase depth of knowledge and refine the writing process. We use intentional and purposeful questioning to ensure their writing is authentic and meaningful. My students brought their final essays with them and will be explaining to you our writing process in further detail. At this time, our students will come around to share with you the work that is being done at Cheatham through integrated writing.
Nice to meet you. So what do we got here?
And if we need to make any, if we need to make any changes, we can write it in our essay.
Okay. So we start with you over 6 equals 9. Right. So if this is being divided, you got it. Because what you do to one side. Yep. And you can store these in your book. Refer back to it. Nice. So this is a lot. Nice. Thank you so much. This is all like, so you know, this good. Good. Very
Oh, really? Oh, at the soccer.
yeah.
Yeah. Eighth grade now. Thank you. Nice job.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for having our students. Students, if you'll get up and head on over for a picture opportunity, if they would like to take a picture with you, go ahead. But that does conclude our spotlight. Thank you
Teachers,
so
if
much
would
for
join
having us.
too. And parents, if you would like to come up and get a picture as well, that's fine. Students, once again, thank you. Teachers, thank you for your investment in our students. Cavalia, thank you for reminding me how to do inverse operations, one of the most important math skills you will ever learn. And parents, thank you for being here tonight. And thank you for bringing your children to Cheatham School every day and allowing them to be a part of our community. We thank you, and you should be very proud of your children. They represented your families and your school very well. Let's give them one more round of applause. And on that high note, we conclude our superintendent's report.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Sprout. I'm going to say thank you again to the kids. Parents, your kids are incredibly intelligent. They are going places. I am proud of them. I'm sure you are far more proud of them. And teachers, you guys are doing a great job. This is incredible work. Ms. Pashley, good job. All right, we are going to move into the business portion of our meeting, but we're going to take a break before that in case you don't want to stay for the business portion of our meeting. So thanks for being with us tonight. Guys, we're going to start back up. Dr. Roselle, I think, has a great presentation on PBIS. I'm interested to hear it, so lay it on us.
Thank you for the vote of confidence. I really appreciate that. Governing Board President, Governing Board members, Dr. Sprout Guest, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present on PBIS this evening. My presentation will have 4 parts. I'll give you a brief overview of what PBIS is. I'll also discuss our district-wide implementation, PBIS key ideas. This will be the research that guides our implementation and some data trends and comparisons. The first thing I want to do, though, is present what the research says about schools that implement PBIS. The research says that schools that implement PBIS increase student engagement and instructional time, reduce teacher burnout, reduce disproportionality in discipline, which means that there's one group that's overrepresented in discipline, and schools that implement PBIS create healthy and safe climates. I've been implementing PBIS for about 10 years as a building level principal and as somebody that manages PBIS for our district, and I've made some observations about our implementation of PBIS in the Levine School District. My first observation is by implementing PBIS, it's enabled us to be proactive. We actually analyze our data once a month and try to find ways to improve our implementation. We also look at our data at the end of the school year, but it's a constant cycle where we're looking to improve what we do in order to serve kids. By implementing PBS, we've also been able to use strategies to address other challenges like attendance, online instruction, and getting consistency on buses with our transportation department. So during the pandemic, when we were in person, then we weren't, then we were, then we weren't. Because we had PBIS, we were able to carry a lot of the consistency we had in the classroom to the online platform and go back and forth, which really helped with consistency. One of the things that we do that a lot of other districts that implement PBIS is we collaborate. I meet with the assistant principals and the counselors once a quarter. We look at our data, we share best practices, and we challenge each other to share those best practices based on the data with each other in our schools, which is great. We're also able to incorporate additional data, like from the Arizona Youth Survey. And one of the other big benefits is consistency from year to year. If we have a student that needs interventions, we're able to communicate those interventions from student to or from teacher to teacher, whether it's within the same school year or from year to year. All of our public spaces within a school have the same expectations, same behaviors. So within the classrooms, we're able to get consistency as well. And the last one, we're able to align additional resources to apply PBIS practices. So when we were awarded 6 SROs, they were able to come in and instead of having to investigate where we needed assistance, they were able to join our PBIS teams, look at our data, and able to start in with a law-related education right away. If you've ever received a training on PBIS or a presentation on PBIS, you would see this triangle. This triangle is a great visual representation of what PBIS is. It's a tiered system that provides students support so they can demonstrate the expectations of a school. The bottom tier is systems-wide or school-wide implementation. For us, what we do is we teach all the expectations and behaviors for every setting to every student. We repeat instructions, we reinforce when necessary. So you might be saying to yourself, okay, if it's for all students, what's the 80% for? Well, the research says that only about 80% of students, when you teach and reinforce expectations, they'll actually demonstrate it. So the next triangle up is the yellow triangle is tier 2. This represents the students that when you teach the expectations to them, they need a little bit of additional support. And the research says about 15% of the students that you teach clear expectations to, they'll need additional supports. In that top triangle, research says about 5% of your student body is in this triangle. And that's for students that need even more supports or that demonstrate extreme behavior. For example, they do injury to themselves or to fellow students. So let me give you an overview of what it's like to teach or to implement Tier 1 PBIS in a school. Now you notice I said everyone, not teachers, because every staff member implements PBIS. Every staff member teaches expectations and behaviors in every setting, and I'll give you an example of that in the next slide. Everyone reteaches behaviors when necessary. Everyone positively reinforces behaviors. And the school as a whole, the PBIS team looks at school-wide data and determines where the focus needs to be so that they can do an intervention school-wide and try to get better results the following month. Another big part of PBIS is we celebrate. We celebrate the individual, we celebrate classes, we celebrate grade levels, we celebrate all students, and it's when they're demonstrating that behavior as part of our system. Like I said before, all schools have expectation matrix. This is an example from Rogers Ranch, and I didn't tell Mr. Thomas this ahead of time, but he probably can recite the expectations from Rogers Ranch, right, Mr. Thomas?
Let's hear it.
All right, excellent. Boy, as you could tell, I was probably pretty nervous, and so was Dr. Sprout with that experiment. So, Yes, all of our schools, when they were trained in PBS, created these expectations and behaviors for each of the settings. You'll notice that the expectations are aligned to the mascot, and I'll show you all the other schools here in a minute. But the example of expectations be positive, an example of a behavior in a classroom is use kind words and actions towards each other. We also expect our teachers to positively reinforce, and it's not that difficult. So I could say, Ms. Berrigan, thank you for being positive by using kind words when introducing me for this presentation. It took 5 seconds, but I'm recognizing you for the behaviors that I expect in the classroom. As you can see, all the other schools have the expectations that are aligned to their mascot. And again, we were intentional for doing this. It's easier for kids to remember, and it's easier for our branding. Just like our students, our teachers have expectations as well. They have expectations on how to redirect students when they're not meeting the expectations. When when teachers receive training, they created a list of minor and major infractions. The minor infractions are behaviors that are handled in the classroom. The major infractions are behaviors that are automatically sent to the office. And the interesting thing about this is when we train teachers, they didn't always agree. Some teachers, when there was a major incident, would keep kids in class and others wouldn't. This way we get consistency. When these behaviors occur, they're handled in the same fashion. Now, remember looking at the triangle. We have students at the bottom, in the middle, at the top. Those students in the middle that can't meet the expectations, that's what the column on the left's for. For teachers that have to consistently readdress students, you could see that the interventions change. We contact parents, and eventually a minor behavior could lead to a referral. And what we tell parents is, yes, by talking in class, it's actually disrupting the learning environment for your student. For other students, they're communicating to us that they need help and assistance, and that's what the Tier 2 interventions are. So to summarize Tier 1, clear expectations are taught, they're retaught, they're celebrated in every setting. Student behavior data is reviewed monthly. For a student to be classified as Tier 1, they'll either have 0 or 1 referrals, and that's not in a month, that's for the entire year. So students that are Tier 1 have 0 or 1 referral. This is an example of a problem and solution statement. So when teachers, or when the PBIS team gets together and they look at data, they're going to create something similar to this. They have to fill out a report, and that report goes to Dr. Sprout, Ms. Davis, and myself, so we can evaluate that. But what they do with the problem statement, solution statement is they share it with their staff, they implement it, they make sure that they collect data, and then the following month they review to see how well the intervention was for their school. We talked about the bottom part of the triangle. Now we're going to talk briefly about the middle and the top. Students are considered Tier 2 if they don't consistently demonstrate the expectations for the school. These students receive between 2 to 5 referrals. Some interventions, or sample interventions were check-in, check-out, small group counseling. As I said before, the top part of the triangle, which is about 5% of the student population, are Tier 3 students. They demonstrate intensive or chronic behaviors. That means they were taught the expectation, they were receiving an intervention, they still need additional supports, or they demonstrate extreme behavior. Examples of interventions these students receive are small group counseling or one-on-one counseling. So what does the process look like as students matriculate from Tier 1 to Tier 2 to Tier 3? I said that the team gets together and reviews school-wide data. They also get together and they look at individual student data. So once a student receives 2 or 6 referrals, then the team meets, the counselor, assistant principal, teachers, whoever services that student. The student and the parent meet as a team. They discuss the current behavior the student's demonstrating, the targeted behavior that they want the student to demonstrate. They identify an intervention, identify how they're going to collect data, because everything's data-driven with PBIS, and then they identify the next meeting because it's tracked, and at the end of that time period, which is usually 30 days, they'll discuss whether the student's on track or needs additional supports. Just like students have expectations, teachers have expectations, the schools as a whole have expectations as well. All staff members have to be trained on how to implement PBIS. We let teachers know when they're hired, they have to implement PBIS. All schools have to have a team with representation from all grade levels. All schools have to have monthly meetings where they look at data to review how effective their implementation is. All schools have to have an outside person from within the district do a fidelity check. So we actually have somebody go to the school and check to see how well they're implementing each tier of PBIS. And the last one, this is unique to our district as well, we have a PBIS summit. For 8 hours, they meet with their teachers, they review data, and they determine what their focus is to better implement the system the following year. Like I said before, we do everything we do with PBIS is research-based. When we first started exploring PBIS, we looked at bodies of research, and we continue to look at bodies of research. And when we looked at these bodies of research, really the question we were trying to answer was, what practices help students to self-regulate? We want students in class and ready to learn, not disrupting other students. So we looked at 3 bodies of research. The first one was exclusionary practice, and that means the student is removed from the educational learning environment. Now I know we have to suspend in school and out of school, but we wanted everyone to understand what are the implications when you use exclusionary practices. And the research is clear. Exclusionary practices absolutely do not change behavior. When you suspend a student, they come back, you can't expect them to change the behavior. So we really wanted to investigate practices that research says change behavior. And one is modeling appropriate behavior by our teaching staff, which we do at all 3 tiers, and positive reinforcement, which is also effective as well. So we use several of these strategies with our PBIS implementation. I talked to you about the positive reinforcement. The example I give there, we follow a format where we identify the student name, we have a positive affirmation, identify expectations, behavior. We use second step to teach skills at all 3 tiers. And for the positive reinforcement, we use tickets, quarterly celebrations, and assemblies. So how does Levine compare? I've said the numbers over and over and over again. Research says 80% of our students should be in Tier 1. 15% of our students should be in Tier 2, and 5% of our students should be in Tier 3. As of now, so far to date, 93% of our students have 0 referrals district-wide. Tier 1, which means they have 0 or 1, 97.63% of our students are in Tier 1. Tier 2, 2.14%. Tier 3, 0.22%. So it's much lower. And I would attribute that to the hard work and dedication of our teachers and our administrators. The last statistic that I want to give you, it's a PBIS statistic. We look at the number of office discipline referrals per 100 students per day. And the reason we do that is we want to be able to make a comparison from a school that has 1,500 kids to one that has 400 kids. So we looked at the Swiss data, which is a warehouse that PBIS schools use. We don't. But the data size includes over 5,000 schools, almost 3 million students for the category of pre-K through 8. The national average in that top quartile is 0.1. We're at a 0.08, so we're below the national average in that as well. It's a lot of information that I just gave you. I know it's a lot, but I want you to have these concluding thoughts. When I talk to people about PBIS, because I do it all the time, I'm the executive director for PBIS Arizona. What I tell them as a district, what we do is we commit to having consistent expectations for all students in every setting. We commit to helping our students meet high standards by all the interventions I described in the Tier 2 and Tier 3. And the last commitment, we commit to using data to evaluate our PBIS implementations. We know things are changing. We have to continue to work hard to make sure that we're changing with them. I just wanted to let you know the data associated with all the schools has been broken down and is in your board packets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Roselle. I just want to say that was great information. You can tell you know that all of that information to your core. And I appreciate that we are doing things that work or don't work based off of data, that the data bears all of that out, and that is incredibly important to show up in that way for our students. So thank you for sharing that information. Any other comments or questions?
I will. So thank you for the presentation and the data as well. And I'm glad to see that's focused on positivity because that makes such a big difference and makes the days for our kids more positive. I'm wondering with some of these kids that are, that top tier who are having extreme behavior that's chronic month to month or even school year to school year, what are the interventions or support staff or things that are available for our teachers who might, that might be very consuming for them to be trying to deal with one extreme student when they have 25 to 29 other students. So what support do we have there?
And I can go over that really briefly, but what I want to do is I want to show you this slide right here because it's really important. Everything we do is we document the process, and that process, the documentation isn't lost. So one of the things that our district leadership team has done is made sure that each of the school sites has a counselor. We've also adopted intervention or materials like Second Step, and those materials are making its way out into the classroom. As far as the different types of interventions, once it gets to that level, it's really individualized by student and what they're trying to do. And it's not something to where before we would implement PBIS, a student would receive an intervention, they would check in at the end of the year. This is something that's monitored every month. And when teachers are collecting data and students are either able to be successful in that setting or not, so that's something that's consistently tracked.
So if it's tracked and then we see month after month, that's still constantly a problem, then what's the next step for being able to handle it where
There's a lot of different options. They can look at special education placement. It really has to do with the student's abilities and really what the cause of them demonstrating that behavior. We also have supports from Touchstone. They can receive counseling outside. So there's a lot of different interventions or supports that they're provided as well too. So our counselors get involved. And one of the things I'd say as far as the tier, you can look at the interventions or think about the interventions like academic interventions. When a student comes to school, everybody receives instruction. When they're in tier 2, it's more group instruction. By the time they hit the top, it's more intensive instruction where it's one-on-one. They're having some of the behaviors or some of the interventions are modeled for them. Their learning environment is much more structured and much more supervised.
Thank you, Dr.
All right.
Roselle.
Thank you.
Great job.
Yep.
Okay, next we have our consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Dr. Sprout?
Thank you, President Berrigan. On our personnel report, the governing board just approved the following administrative hires. I'd like to say congratulations to our future Chief Financial Officer, Charlie Martin. If you would please stand, congratulations and welcome. And please introduce your family. Congratulations and welcome. All of these positions, by the way, will be starting on July 1st. Next, our two new assistant principals. Jessica Neal, if you would please stand up, congratulations. Now, you have someone with you tonight? All right, well, congratulations. Ms. Neal will be at Rogers Ranch School next year. And then our second assistant principal that we are hiring, or we've hired now, is Patty Gonzalez Sotelo. So Patty, would you please stand up? Congratulations. And Patty, you brought some guests with you tonight? All right, well, congratulations. Patty will be the assistant principal at Paseo Point next year. We have one other administrator that was hired tonight, and that's our new student services coordinator, Dawn Robinson. Dawn is not able to be here tonight, so we will introduce her. Now, before we go on, I have to give Dr. Roselle a hard time. Ms. Hamburg is also the principal at Rogers Ranch School, Dr. Roselle, just in case you didn't know, but when you called out Mr. Thomas here. But okay, all right. Okay, all right. Well, congratulations, Ms. Hamburg, for being still the principal of Rogers Ranch. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sprout. Okay, next we move on to the Independent Audit and USFR Compliance Questionnaire for fiscal year 2022. How'd we do? Did we pass the
Ooh,
test?
I'm sure you all read every
Every
page. And since this has to be done individually by roll call vote, we'll have to go through all of it tonight.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Now, Madam President, members of the board, fellow employees, and honored guests. First, I need to say thank you to Reagan Berrigan for not leaving me hanging out here by myself.
Aw.
So, and share with you, yes, we had another fine audit. It was the audit firm we've been using, Dobridge and Company, was actually purchased by another company, CWDL, and they did the audit this year, and everything was good. As required, we've submitted all the forms that we needed to the state and federal agencies, and let you know we did receive what's called an unmodified auditor opinion. Sounds really strange to say that, but that's actually the highest opinion an auditing firm can give you on your books. There were also no audit findings in either the financial statements or the federal awards. There were no internal control findings. That's a really important one, especially with the Auditor General. We once again qualified as a low-risk auditee. Always good to have that. Now, I got to tell you, this is a testament to Anita Purcell, her staff, and managing all the issues that surround the audit, all the things that go into that. They've trained district staff in the appropriate procedures and the district staff that carried those out. And that includes all of our folks at the schools that have to manage the cash and the student information. So all of that is wonderful. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay,
Or
any
just-
questions, anybody? Great
All
work,
right.
Mr. Haggerty.
So-
Charlie, you better be as good next year.
Yeah. So, and
Yes.
by roll call vote then.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Anita, also and your team for your hard work as well, my dear. Thank you. Okay, roll call vote, please, Elsa. Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Torrance. Okay, all right. Very good, thank you. Next, we have our certified non-teacher, administrative, and guest teacher salary schedules for fiscal year '24. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have a stipend schedule as well for fiscal year '24. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is the Executive Director of Finance position, and that's replacing that with the Director of Finance position, or replacing Director, excuse me, with Executive Director, effective July 1st, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One of the best votes we get to make all year, certified contracts for fiscal year '24. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the next best one, single year administrative contracts for fiscal year '24. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And then Peer Solutions Memorandum of Understanding. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Did I sense you wanting to say something? No? Okay. I sensed wrong. No, all good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any comments from the board this evening? We'll start with you, Linda. Go ahead.
Just thanks for everyone being here. A lot of exciting things going on. I got to see, or I didn't get to see the Lunar New Year, but I got to hear all the excitement about it at home because my son was in it and made the news, and his friends were on the news, and it was very exciting. So I appreciate all the effort that went into that, and seeing all the effort going in at Cheatham and around the district, and teachers that I've known for a long time moving their way up through the district. So it's exciting to see, and I appreciate all the effort from all the teachers and staff.
Michelle?
So one, just thank you to all who participated in the parade and all the work you did behind that for that community event. It was a great day for that. And then I also just wanted to give a shout out to the Academic Services Department for just all of your work and having to get that KEA assessment together. And just a shout out to all of the kindergarten teachers who have to implement this assessment. I know it's a lot, but just keep at it, and we just appreciate all that you're doing for the kids in addition to having to do that assessment.
Thank you. I just want to say welcome to your new roles within the district or to the district, to our new administrators. I know a little bit about Charlie Martin, and we are very, very lucky to have him with his experience from the governor's office, from other school districts, as well as from the Arizona Department of Education. And I hear wonderful things about Jessica and Patty as well. So glad to have you guys on board. And the last thing I want to say is a thank you to our legislators for passing the aggregate expenditure limit override for this year. I know that they are not here, but I believe that it is important to thank people publicly when they do the right thing, and they did the right thing. And now we just need a permanent override, so we'll keep talking to them. And with that, our next board meeting will be on March 2nd, 2013, and shortly after that, we'll be on a spring break. The year's just flying right by. Okay, let's adjourn the meeting, my friends.
Motion.
Been motioned and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Good night, everybody.